Hello. How are you doing? Cool. I want to share a story with you. So 16 years ago, I found myself in a prison in south of Sweden, and I was frustrated, confused, and surrounded by chaos. The prison was actually hosted by a school called Hyper Island. I was 20 years old at the time, and I had just spent the first weeks of my educational program in digital media. And the chaos that was surrounding me was made up by 70 young and eager students. And we were vibrating frustration, because we had just realized that we basically had to unlearn most of what we fundamentally had learned about learning. We realized that technology was and would bring this rapid speed of change and complexity. And as I was sitting there, I was like, shit, I'm not prepared for that reality. How will I ever know what's right and what's wrong in a future like that? And how will I find comfort when things are changing all the time? And that insight I've been relearning over and over again, and collecting insights that I've packaged into a formula. And it's a formula that helps me to dare to act, even when I don't know the right answer, and even when I don't feel fully comfortable. And it's a simple formula, and I'm very happy to share it with you today. So I'd like to start with component X, and bring you back to those first weeks at Hyper Island, and tell you the story of how we ended up in that frustrating situation. So one of the first things the program leader at Hyper Island would say to us when they welcomed us was this: at Hyper Island, we have no classrooms, no teachers, no books, and no exams. And I, 20 years old, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna like this. But I had no idea what that would mean for us in practice. And as the week started, they would give us challenges, very important challenges. For example, they would put us on a football field and say to us, okay, you're going to find a rope, and then you're going to create an equal square out of the rope while being blindfolded and not able to speak with each other. And it would look like something like this. So I had a lot of fun doing this challenge, but I was also wondering, why are we doing this? Aren't we supposed to learn about digital media? And after a few of these types of challenges, we finally had some digital media, because the program leaders gave us a project to create a website for a company. And just to remind you, so this was 2002. And most of us were sitting on stationary computers. We thought these were really cool at the time. They took about 10 minutes to start. AI, VR, blockchain, machine learning, and things like that did not exist in our awareness. And in Sweden, I think we had about 150,000 corporate websites on the Swedish domain .se. So you were not really able yet to set up your private website. So to build a website was really cool, just saying. And the thing was that as we started and we got this brief for this project, we didn't get any guidance. No one told us how to build a website, what to think about when building a website. And when we asked for some guidance from the program leaders, they would basically say, yeah, that's an interesting question. What do you think? What do we think? Aren't you supposed to teach us? We're at the school, come on. And on top of this, they would suddenly change the conditions for us. So they would give us another brief, another project on top of this existing one, and they would make changes to the group without giving us any extra time to complete it. And now we got mad. We got so stressed, and we had no idea how to deal with it. And I remember hearing one of my classmates yelling from one of the cells in the prison. And he's like, this must be one of the most unstructured schools ever. Where is the plan? Where are the instructions? And who the hell knows about digital media? And I later find out that this messy experience was all part of the school's strategy. Because what they have done was to create a tiny simulation of how the world actually looks like. Complex, uncertain, in constant change. And we had a problem. We were a bunch of 20 to 35 years old entrepreneurs, creatives, eager to learn and eager to make a difference. But we were raised in societies and in schools where we had learned the following: how to follow and create the predictable plan, how to deliver results on our own, how to follow instructions, and how to remember the right answer. And this did not serve us at all. Rather the opposite. And instead, what we would have needed were abilities like how to adapt quickly, how to collaborate effectively, how to solve problems creatively, and how to lead ourselves and think independently. And this school, they basically threw us into the deep end of complexity, saying, you figure it out. They believed in us, and they trusted us. And they would do this over and over and over again during 2 years' time. And in combination with this, they guided us for some rigorous and facilitated reflection. And during the reflection, they would ask us questions like, what happened that affected you? How did you feel? How did you act? How did you collaborate? What strategies did you use? What worked? What didn't work? What can you learn from it? What can you learn about yourself, about others, about teamwork, about design, technology, business, and so on? And most importantly, how do you want to apply it going forward? Reflection, I know it sounds like an easy and obvious thing for some, but I'm very curious to hear how many of you, hands up, reflect on a regular basis. Awesome. That's great. And good job and good for you. Because when you spend time understanding, contextualizing, and applying knowledge in your own way through reflection, that creates ownership. And ownership is one of two key components to optimize learning. And this is according to psychological and neuroscientific research. The other component is emotion. And you get emotion through experience. And when you experience something, it activates something in your brain that signals and says, this event is outstanding, and it sort of increases the effectiveness of the learning. And this is why learning calls for us to open ourselves to feel the gap of knowledge and abilities that we don't have. And feeling the gap can be uncomfortable. That's can also be a bit scary. But when we lean ourselves into feeling that and spend time contextualizing, understanding, and applying, that's when we get a spiral of learning. And that's when we get progress. That's when we get learning. And this is what Hyper Island did to us during 2 years' time, over and over and over again. And they reprogrammed us to learn how to learn. And that's something that I'm forever grateful for. And during this time, I realized and committed to learn to love and practice to love the feeling of not knowing. To see each moment as an opportunity to learn and to use reflection on a regular basis. So this builds the first component of my formula to dare to act in change and complexity. And that's learning by doing. The second component, why, came also during Hyper Island, but it really landed with me 10 years later when I was pregnant with our first son, Leon. Here's Leon. So today, Leon is 5 years old, and I have our second son in here. And it's actually some breakdancing going on here as well. But when I got Leon, and when I was pregnant with him, I didn't have a hallelujah moment at all. I actually had a lot of complications. And I had to lay down, I was in pain, I couldn't move, and I had to go on a sick leave. And the problem for me wasn't the fact that I couldn't move, but the fact that I wasn't able to perform at work. It completely challenged my identity. Who was I if I was not performing? And after a while, the questions changed to who I wanted to be for my son, and how could I raise him to be prepared for this rapidly changing and complex world. And since Hyper Island, I had been thinking quite a lot about, okay, so if everything is changing all the time, that means that the stuff, the objects, events, titles, whatever it is, the external stuff where we find safety and comfort will continuously be challenged. So we need to find safety and comfort within ourselves more and more. And so I realized if there's one thing I want for my son, for Leon, it's for him to surf through this complexity with one key navigator, his true self. And it would be a navigator that helped him to create self-leadership and independent thinking. And then I was like, cool, how do I do this? How do you even do that? And I realized I had to go to myself. And the questions that I started to ask myself was, why am I here? Like, what matters to me? What are my values? What am I interested in? What vision do I have for myself and for my life and for the world? And how do I want to contribute to that? And going through the process and coming up with the answers to these questions was extremely liberating, but really, really challenging when I realized that I was living a life, I had dreams and I had needs that I wasn't living by and fulfilling. But during this process, I realized that my purpose is not just to be true to myself, but also to empower people to be true to themselves. It's not always easy to do that. I aim and strive to realize this through my work at Hyper Island, where I'm back there working. Because I want to bring what I got, the ability to learn for life. I'm on a mission now, because I want to bring that to as many people as possible. And being true to myself and helping others to be true to themselves is not always easy. So I developed a canvas to support that. And this is a canvas that I go to and that guides me on a daily basis. And I update this. And once a year, I take some time to reflect on a deeper level what it actually is. What are my passions? What are my values? What impact do I want to have? What dreams do I have? What problems matter to me in the world, and how do I want to contribute to them, etc. And then I go back to these on a regular basis, sometimes daily, and it helps me to filter. It helps me to focus, and it helps me to take action. And the funny thing is that research shows that having clarity around your own values actually increase your engagement rate, even more than having clarity around your company values. And I think it's funny. It doesn't matter if you have clarity around your company values. Your engagement rate is actually decreasing if you don't have clarity around your personal values. So, embracing learning by doing, in combination with being true to yourself, to me combines the formula of daring to act in a world of complexity and change. And it's an easy formula. But the challenge is in sticking with it and in living by it every day, in big and small. And I saw the ripple effect of this a couple of years ago when I was facilitating a course in user experience in Singapore. And one of the women, the participants, said in the reflection one day, she said, "When I was going home from yesterday's class, I realized not only am I seeking and working according to a manual, but I'm also raising my kids to do the same. I haven't trained them to think individually. I'm not preparing them for the future and the reality we live in today. I never ask them what they think or what they truly want. Yesterday, when I came home, I asked them a simple question that I've never asked before. How do you want to spend your holiday? And we had an amazing family discussion about it. So going back to the prison, I'm feeling frustrated, confused, and I'm surrounded by chaos. I still face these feelings often. And I more and more even seek these feelings because I feel I have tools and abilities to grow from them and to live with them. So I believe that by embracing learning by doing and being true to yourselves, it will increase bravery for people to dare to act today in order to create a better tomorrow. Not just for ourselves, but for generations to come. Thank you.